Welcome to Woman Power. I'm your host, Lisa Diane Wedgeworth. Today we are celebrating the 100-year centennial of women's suffrage with Santa Monica Councilmember Gleam Davis, two environmental activists from Santa Monica High School, Lilly Chertock, and Anastasia Shahid Genova, and Natalya Zemitskaya, president of the League of Women Voters in Santa Monica. Ladies, it's great to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. It's an honor and definitely a pleasure. Let's start with the reason we're here. Voting!
Yeah.
What does voting mean to each of you personally, and why is it so important to vote?
So as a council member, obviously, I know that voting is the voice of the people. If you want your elected officials to care about the things you care about, you have to vote so that they know what you're trying to tell them.
Yes. Lily?
That's exactly right. I think a lot of people my age don't really understand the true power of voting, but it really is your voice in our government. It is your power to show elected officials what you care about. It is a voice in your community, and more importantly, you can vote for people who, for whatever reason, aren't able to vote, and be their voice too.
I like that, being a voice for someone else who doesn't have the ability for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, voting is just simply being able to influence the world around you.
I like that, being able to influence the world around you. And Natalya?
For me, well, the two first gals kind of hit it right off the bat. Your vote is your voice. So for me, my vote is my voice, and if I don't use it, somebody else gets to make decisions for me, and I want to make my own decisions.
Right. Councilmember Gleam, as a former Santa Monica mayor, how can people vote this year?
So actually this year, the LA County Registrar of Voters is making it much easier for people to vote. There actually are a whole lot of different methods. Most importantly, you're not necessarily tied to that voter precinct that you happen to live in. There are many places you can vote that are more convenient or be more accessible for you to vote. I think Natalya has a real good beat on that, as the League of Women Voters has worked very hard to make it easier for people to vote.
I like that, because historically that has been a factor that prevents people from voting, right? That if they live in a particular neighborhood, or maybe if they moved and their address hasn't been updated, it prevents them from moving. So to have this new opportunity is extremely important.
Yeah, we're moving kind of from your neighborhood polling place to vote centers. So they're going to be all throughout the county. You can vote wherever is convenient for you, and it's going to be fantastic because it's also a lot more secure, and it's going to be open for, depending on the location, up to 11 days before the actual election. So you have a lot more time to go in and cast your ballot.
Oh, that's great. So what role does the League of Women Voters in Santa Monica play in civic engagement and voter empowerment today?
So if you'll notice, I'm wearing a very lovely button that says I Heart Civil Discourse. So that's one of the few things that we do to promote civic engagement, and the council does a great job of it as well, of promoting civil discourse so everyone has a chance to participate. And we also do a lot of education around voting. So we do voter registration, we do pros and cons, and we have a fantastic resource that's not only available in Santa Monica, but all throughout the state, called Voters Edge. So votersedge.org. You can go in there, put in your address, and it'll pull up your ballot, and you can, at your leisure, go through your ballot, decide what or who you want to vote for, and you have all of the nonpartisan, unbiased information at your fingertips.
Oh, that makes it very easy. Lilly and Anastasia, will this be your first time voting in a national election?
Actually, no. I missed the date by 2 weeks.
Oh,
I'll be
really?
18 at the end of November. So,
And how about you?
I'm going to be 17 until 2021, so unfortunately, no, I won't be voting, but I will be watching, and I think so many people like us who aren't going to be 18 in November, we're going to be watching, we're paying attention, and we're hoping that other people use their vote to speak for us.
Well, it's really great that even though you're not of voting age, that you're so active in your community and promoting the opportunity to vote for others and sharing how important it is. Councilmember Gleam and Natalya, what events do we have to look forward this year?
So one of the most important things we have going on is education about the new voting system that Natalya described. We're doing a number of educational programs around the community at our libraries and at other locations so that people can understand not only that we have new voting times and places, but also that we have new voting machines that are much more secure. They're not connected to the internet, and they do create a paper ballot, which is a trail of how you vote. But they're different than the voting machines that people are used to. And so we're hoping that people will come in and take advantage of these brief educational programs so that when they go into the voting booth, wherever it is, that they'll be able to vote effectively and accurately.
Well, we'll have to make sure we have that information so we can post it so people know
Absolutely.
about the event so they can participate. Natalya?
Well, the League is going to have events all throughout the year celebrating the centennial because it's not just the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment being ratified. It's also the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters.
All right.
Our birthday is February 14th, so we're going to be turning 100.
Wonderful.
It's very exciting. So one of the local events that I'm very excited about that may have already happened by the time this airs is a book talk at Ocean Park Branch Library with Councilmember Greg Morena, because I don't know if you know this, but he's actually a descendant of a radical suffragist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Matilda Jocelyn Gage. So we're having the author of a biography on her come down, and he's going to interview her, and we're going to learn a lot about this fantastic radical suffragist who was too radical even for the other suffragists of the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds like an episode that we need in the
yeah.
future.
Yeah.
So let's take a break, and when we return, we'll talk about getting involved in public service and activism. How's that sound? All right.
Sounds good.
All right, great. Thank you for staying with us as we continue the conversation about the 100-year centennial of women's suffrage and discussing getting involved in public office and getting the vote out. Councilmember Gleam, what made you want to work in public office?
I've always been interested in politics. My first political experience is when I was 12 years old in 1968. I actually stuffed envelopes for Bobby Kennedy.
Wow.
But I never really thought I would run for office until I was a working mom, and my son's early childhood education center was threatened with closure. And I wanted to run for office to make sure that no other working parent had to endure the tension and nervousness and strain that I endured trying to make sure that the center stayed open so he would have a place to go.
Right. Access to daycare is extremely important. I think we'll definitely have to invite you back to have that conversation.
I would love to have that conversation.
Natalya, why did you get involved with the League of Women Voters?
I actually have a really funny story about that. About a year after I had moved to LA, I had made friends with this guy named Greg, and his mom, Joanne, was very active in the League. And for whatever reason, they needed a new webmaster. So they thought, hey, Natalya's young. She can be a webmaster, right? Young people know the internet. So they asked me to be a webmaster, keeping in mind that the most experience I'd had with building website was a GeoCities site that I had built in middle school. And so I said, sure. And so I became the webmaster. A few years later, I became treasurer, and now I'm in my second year as president of the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it's a great story and shows that any route or any avenue can take you to an important place in your life, right? Lilly, Greta Thunberg has been a big inspiration for many people. In which way has she inspired your work as an activist?
Well, I was lucky enough to attend the event on November 1st. There was a climate strike where Greta actually came to LA and spoke in front of City Hall, and we got a large group of Samo High students to attend that day. And it was incredible to see her in person. I actually ended up walking alongside her for part of the strike.
Oh, really?
But Greta has been so inspirational because of the way that she goes in front of rooms full of world leaders, and she's so unwavering in her message, which is, I shouldn't have to be here, listen to the science. And she basically says to these people who aren't taking action that they need to face the science. And she faces so much criticism for being young, and they say that she's not an expert. But her message has always been, listen to the experts. So I really love that about her, and she's been so monumental in organizing millions of people. So she's been such an incredible figure in this fight.
That's wonderful. She has a level of courage and strength that I haven't seen in someone in a very long time, and to be such a young person, it's really impressive. Anastasia, is there a personal experience that has inspired your work as an activist?
You know, actually, just less than 2 years ago, I kind of felt very intimidated by the whole political sphere. And it just kind of all seemed a lot. And I think that I was pretty distanced from it. And I think I was subconsciously, I had a trust in the system, and I had a trust that everybody was making the best decisions for everybody. And at some point I realized that the ideas that seemed obvious to me, the right things to do, weren't obvious to everybody, and they definitely weren't obvious to people that were in power and to people that held political positions. And so I realized that if I wanted to get any change done, and if I wanted to see change happen, I would have to jump in and have my voice heard. And I could only do that by becoming an activist.
Right. Was there a particular idea, you said you thought of these various ideas, is there a particular one that you could share with us that you realized the others weren't on the same page as you?
To me, it didn't make any sense to be working on any other political idea if we're not focusing on the environment. To me, the environment is the baseline of everything, and nothing else could work, even if we establish a perfect society. But if we don't have the planet to live on in this perfect society, it's not going to work.
Right. We're all gone, right?
Exactly.
We need the planet.
Yeah.
This is something,
Right.
regardless of
Focusing
what
on
our
it.
political ideologies are, we need this planet to live on. So this
Exactly.
is a priority, should be a priority for all of us, and should be an issue that we all unite on, right?
Exactly.
Again, so to Lilly and Anastasia, tell us about the event you organized last year at Santa Monica High School for Climate Strike.
Well, we're both members of Climate Action Santa Monica, and there was a celebration at the Victorian, and a group of us, Samo High students who were members of Climate Action Santa Monica's Climate Corps, we were in a circle and we were talking about how there was going to be a global strike on September 20th, and we were realizing that it would be really powerful to have something happen at Samo High, and we were thinking of different ideas. Originally, we wanted to have some sort of rally that would disrupt school, but we realized that we could get an audience, a very captive, large audience, by cooperating with the school, and so we ended up organizing an assembly. And we got speakers, we got Gleam Davis to come, and former sustainability coordinator Caroline Koster, and actually State Senator Ben Allen recorded a video just for us that we played at the assembly. We created a presentation, and we presented it to over 900 students who came to the assembly.
Oh, that's awesome.
And for me, so we've had several climate strikes before this big 9/20 climate strike, and we always have the same group of, I'd say, roughly 100 kids striking and going downtown. And our school has over 2,000 people, closer to 3,000. So it just felt kind of wrong to be just leaving with the same group of individuals and leaving 2,000 kids at SAMO kind of in the dark, because perhaps I've had the opportunity to be exposed to environmental issues and I've begun to understand why they're so important, but so many other students haven't had that opportunity. So creating an educational climate action assembly where we're able to share our passion for the environment and why it's important with other students, and I think we had over 1,000 students come to our assembly voluntarily, and that was just so important to me.
So ladies, I've been hearing about this trash monster. What is this, and should we be afraid?
It's actually, Team Marine has this costume that we've had for several years. It's just a head-to-toe costume filled with plastic bags, and it was actually used to get the single-use plastic ban in Santa Monica a few years ago, and it was successful in that. And we're currently making other trash costumes, if you say, with other single-use plastics that have not been banned yet, and we're looking to see banned.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I love the work that you two are doing. As I'm talking about you, you guys have a beautiful charisma, you're radiating joy, and you have a level of confidence, again, that is just as wonderful as Greta Thunberg's. You obviously have strong organizational skills because you're organizing these events at school. Do you think you'll ever run for public office?
I think it's definitely on the table. I think in the coming years, as we know, we don't have a lot of time left to really figure things out with climate change and to get our stuff together. So in the coming years, I'm really struggling to figure out what is the best place for me to fit in. But I think definitely in the future, it's definitely on the table to run for public office. But for now, maybe working on campaigns, doing everything I can.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and for me, I think that if I see that there's a message that is still continuously being ignored, I'd say that getting involved I would feel like I would have to get involved.
Right. Wonderful. Gleam and Natalya, what advice would you give to young women looking to get involved in public service?
Well, I would tell them to remember that women have only had the vote for 100 years. It sounds like a long time, but we should have had it for a lot longer. And so a lot of people went before and sacrificed to get that right for us. And so I think not only should women vote in every election, but they shouldn't be afraid to fail. Some of our best politicians, Abraham Lincoln, Barack Obama, all lost elections before they won. And so I think putting yourself out there and having the courage to say, I have an issue like these young ladies do, I'm going to run and I want to talk to people. Even if you don't win the first time, having the courage to do it and then learning from it will make you a better person and a more successful politician as you go through life.
Yeah, that's a great message for politics or any path that we want to pursue. Natalya?
Well, I think that something that hasn't been really said is there's more ways to get involved in public service than just running for office. So, for example, you could join the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica or wherever you may happen to live. You can get involved in issues like these two lovely young ladies have gotten involved in the environment because it's really important. Find your niche and go for it. And I really like what Gleam said, don't be afraid to fail. Yeah. You're going to make mistakes, but that's how you learn. Another really fun thing is within Santa Monica, there's so many commissions and non-elected representatives. So join a commission. Yeah. And, don't be afraid if you don't get it the first time.
Wonderful.
And if I can just add one thing, we talk so often about young people like this encouraging them to run for president, and they should, but you know what? They should also run for mayor. You can have a very direct effect on your community by maybe aiming a little lower in the beginning, because I know that in my time as mayor and on the city council, I've been able to actually see person to person the work that I've been doing, which when you think on a grander scale is maybe a little harder. So while you should certainly think about president, don't forget to run for mayor first.
I like that. One last question for you ladies. If you were to meet someone who doesn't think their vote counts, and so they don't plan on voting, what advice would you give them?
I would say if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Thank you. Lilly?
I would say vote because the issues that matter don't solve themselves.
I would say to do more research about the issues that matter to you and realize that they're not as overwhelming as you might think. And once you do the research, I think people will be more encouraged to vote and get active.
Natalya, would you like to take us out with
Sure,
your advice?
Yeah. There have been so many elections and so many decisions that have been decided by just one vote. Women got the right to vote because of one vote in Tennessee, I believe it was. One gentleman changed his vote from a no to a yes on women's suffrage, and that's how the 19th Amendment got ratified. So your vote does count. One vote can make a difference.
Yes, and I would like to add that a lot of people in this country died so we have a right to vote. Right? And so they didn't die in vain, that it is our right and it is a privilege to vote, and that we have to make time to make our voice count. Thank you all for coming in and spending time to celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage. I am looking forward to some fun upcoming events and casting my vote in all the upcoming elections this year. I am Lisa Diane Wedgeworth, your host of Woman Power. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's really been a wonderful conversation. I'm impressed by all.